Hey guys, I'm going to do a little quick and dirty tutorial on how to spin yarn. So there are other really great videos on there. For my purposes, I just want to kind of do my own video on it. And my whirl comes off on this one. It's a removable whirl. And I have to say that this is probably one of my much prettier pieces. I chose it for this video mainly because it didn't have anything on it, and the rest of mine do. But it's also, you don't need a bigger drop spindle. And I did buy this drop spindle from the FolkTalesPL Poland Etsy shop. She is fantastic, and she has far more decorative stuff than this. But that aside, we're going to get into the actual roving. So I have here just some Peruvian wool. It's been in a bag, but that's all good. There's a little knit ball there. We'll just pluck that out. And so you're just going to take your fiber. I like to do short lengths at a time so that they don't get too hard to manage. And what I'll do is I'll just drape it over my arm like so. I'll draft some out, and my drop spindle has a hook. If yours doesn't have a hook, I will be doing a tutorial on Turkish spindles, because most Turkish spindles have a notch for a half hitch. So if that's the kind of spindle you have, I'll be doing that video very soon. But most drop spindles have hooks. So most of the ones that you buy commercially now. So you're just going to put this fiber on this hook. You don't need a leader yarn. You don't need a leader yarn. The only time I think that you actually do need a leader yarn is when you're spinning on a spinning wheel. So before I actually put any spin into this, I just kind of want you guys to see. There's not a whole lot of twirling going on right now. Whichever way you decide to spin your spindle, either clockwise or counterclockwise, keep it consistent. I spin all of my singles clockwise, so therefore I ply all of them counterclockwise, because you ply in the opposite direction. I'll be doing a video on plying. But right now, whenever you're spinning straight from raw fiber and you're spinning one thing, that is called a single. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to spin it the same way I always spin it, clockwise. So I'm just going to give this a flick. And here it starts to double back. So just whenever you're first starting out, watch for this, especially on an empty spindle. That's got to be one of the most frustrating parts. And now for the actual like spinning stuff, we're going to twist it. I always do some method of park and draft. So park and draft is basically, let's see how far I can scoot out on this. You can at least see my knees. I like to sit Indian style when I spin. It's just a preference. Posture is not actually important for this, unlike calligraphy. So you're going to put some spin into your yarn, and you're going to park it between your knees, however way you're sitting. Or what I typically do is I just pinch it with this hand. I don't even park it anywhere. I just pinch it with this hand and I hold it still. And then I will draft my fibers from the rest, and just a short little length in between these fingers. And what I'll do, especially to get that little bit of fluff from the tail end of your loop, because you made a loop out of your fiber, so you've got a little tail from the other end of that loop, and you're just going to move your fingers up, and that loop is gone now. And you're going to continue. I'm going to put some more twist in here. And I'm going to pinch it, and I'm going to draft out some more fiber. And I know I'm probably making this look very easy. If you are having any difficulty, I've been doing this for years, so keep that in mind. And at this point, when I have it this long, I just spin and draft at the same time. You don't need to feel the need to do that if you're not ready to. This is all a step-by-step journey for you. Take it slow if you feel like you need to. Or if you feel like being experimental with it and going a little faster and challenging yourself, try spinning it and drafting it at the same time. And just keep a little eye on your spindle. And right here it's starting to double back. So I will give it another flick and continue. And I'm going to stop it right about here. We have a nice little length of yarn, so you don't want to do your first bit too long. You kind of want to, do it from the nose to the outstretch, almost like you're cutting for embroidery floss or cutting for sewing thread. Just that amount, because you want to be able to wind it on and work with it without having your arm way out there. You see what I'm saying? You don't want to work too much yarn at a time that you can't wind it on easily. It's another tip. So I'm just going to move this off the hook with my fingers. That's another way to do it. Doesn't matter how goofy it looks, as long as it's on the spindle and you've made yarn, it's valid. It's actually funny to me that I've made so many mistakes this time. It's probably just camera shyness. But now you guys can see how goofy sometimes you have to do things. And I like it when I make mistakes on camera because, it shows you guys. Like, oh, I make mistakes too. I've been doing this for years. I still lose the end of my thread. So you're going to basically wind it on until you have a length that will go around the hook. So I have about this much, and just what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very, very sparsely wrap it around the shaft right here, and then just go under the hook and go with it, and just keep going with it. So here we go, and I don't want this to get tangled up, so I'm going to put this up here. And again, we're going to do some twist and draft as we go. Now, whenever I draft, I like to pinch. You'll see, like, this is a perfect line that you can almost not see against my hand. Let me use my sleeve. So you can see right here where it kind of starts to make a bit of a triangle. It makes a bit of a pyramid. I like to pinch my fiber right above the point of that pyramid. So I don't always pull from here. Sometimes I pull from here. It depends on how much twist you have currently in your yarn. This is kind of like some next level advice after you've troubleshooted some of your other spinning things. And sometimes if you over twist it and it gets up in here, so I'm going to pause this a little bit. I have a lot of twist right here. So whenever I go, and I'm just going to park my spindle. So whenever I do this, it doesn't really want to come undone very easily. It no longer wants to draft for you. Here's what I do when that happens, because it happens all the time when I'm spinning. Because like I'm spinning as, like, I'm not park and drafting. I'm like spinning while it's in the air. I'm drafting while my spindle is like constantly twirling, and it happens. Here's what I do. I am spinning clockwise. So I move my fingers counterclockwise. I pinch right here. I move my fingers counterclockwise. I'm removing some of that twist just from right there. And now I am able to pull. And then I let the twist go back up. Great, huh? So let's keep doing this. And a lot of times I will just do that motion very slightly throughout. Like whenever I'm pinching this yarn, I am very ever so slightly pinching it in the opposite direction I'm spinning. Very gently spinning it and pinching it just barely in the opposite direction. Now, the yarn that I am spinning currently is relatively thin. Whenever I first started out, my yarn was not this thin. So if you're trying this out right now and your yarn is way bigger than mine, I tend to spin finer. You are totally fine. It does, don't get caught up in the dirty little details that'll bog you down. You're making yarn. It's all good. My first yarn was completely unusable. It was huge, bulky, over twisted, knotty, and gnarled. So that's my experience. Now, we're going to continue winding this, and I usually, for this little spindle, I go about half shaft down before I turn like this and start rolling back down the shaft. And then I get to the bottom and I roll up the shaft, and then I roll down the shaft, and that's pretty much all I do to wind my yarn. That's all I do. And what else? I'm feeling like there's some other tidbits of info. That's what I need to show you guys. How to join. Okay. I'm so glad I remembered before I thought I had done a thorough job and I hadn't. Okay, so let's say, for instance, that, oopsie. Now what do you do? Okay, so you have a little bit of fluff here, and you have some more fluff here. What I do, I'm going to get a little bit closer to the camera here, because like I'm so far away back there. So I've got a little bit of fluff, and I've got another fluffy end here. If your yarn snaps while you're spinning and you have two very twisted ends, you're going to need to comb it with your nail until it gets fluffy again. And usually what I do with these is I will flip it around and I will start spinning from the other side. I don't need to do that right now, but just know that if you're having a lot of trouble joining, just try flipping your roving from one end to the other. Because if you at least have one fluffy side with wool, you'll be fine. Alpaca's another story, and I learned that the hard way this week spinning it for the first time. But anyway, so you're just going to lay these over a little bit. Lay these over a little bit. Catch some fibers with your thumb from off of the roving. Draft a little. Hold them like this. Oh, and I didn't put any twists right here, so I'm going to pinch it right before they join. Before they've joined, I'm going to put some twist in. I'm going to pinch it again before they join. Let the twist go up. Put more twist in. Pick it and draft. Again. Seamless join. Now that join was seamless again because I've been doing this for years. Your joins might look much thicker. They might look hairier. That's fine. The more you do it, the more seamless it will become. The more practice you get. So it might look a little gnarly and you might be like, wow, you can totally tell where I joined that. I hope this doesn't come apart again. Well, give it a spin. Is it coming apart? If it does, do it again. Make sure you comb it really well with your fingers. And just do it again until it works. But it should work as long as both of your ends are fluffy. And that's another reason why I say wool is such a great fiber to start off with. Because as I have said before, their molecular structure wants to stick to each other. They want to stick to each other. So I hope that I have given you all the tools that you need to do your spinning with. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments down below. And I will be doing a video soon on Turkish spindle spinning and how to start on a Turkish spindle, how to start on a spindle that doesn't have a hook, and also how to wind a Turkish spindle. I will only be showing one technique because that's the only technique I like. So, happy crafting, and bye-bye.